In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Ellorrs Madak for the Power of the Jedi line. This might be one of the most anticipated action figures for me for 2024. I've actually been eyeing this character for over a year now, and there's a couple times where I've had it in the cart where it's like, I'll go ahead and buy it, and then I decide, no, I'll hold off just a little bit longer. He's not too expensive, and he's really not that hard to get a hold of. But now that the Cantina's in production, and I did end up backing the Cantina, I've been going back and trying to get several of the Cantina patrons. I'm not going to get them all. There's some of them I look at where it's like, I really just don't like the look of that character at all, or I just think it's goofy, or it's not really going to fit with the display I'm going for. But this is one of the characters that I think is really neat that Hasbro has made. I'm a big fan of Duros, so it was kind of a must-have for me. And of all the characters from the Power of the Jedi line, this one's probably one of the more favorable looking ones from that era that even to this day a lot of people look back on. It's like, this action figure still holds up really well. In fact, I really don't see anyone really advocating for an update of it. It's a perfect action figure as is. Obviously, it's not going to be the most articulated action figure out there, but a character like this doesn't really need all the ultra articulation. I'd rather save a lot of that tooling budget for characters that will really need it. Overall, it's a really good looking action figure. I just was passing through a comic book store on a drive recently, and between this action figure and the TIE Fighter pilot for the Black Series that I reviewed recently, I ended up getting both of these together, or both of them together. And interesting, the shelf for the Power of the Jedi action figures, he was front and center there, and as soon as I saw him, I thought, oh yes, I have to have him. I think I paid about $10 for it. It does have the Myers sticker here for $4.99. I didn't pay $4.99 for it, but, for $10, $11, $12, it's not a bad deal. Between the TIE Fighter pilot and this action figure, I only paid $24, and I figured it factored out to about $12 each. So not a bad deal at all. And of all the Cantina patrons, I know a lot of them have gone way up on the aftermarket recently because of the Cantina being released around the corner. But this is one of the ones that seems like it's stayed fairly reasonably priced and available, even after the aftermath of the game funded. So it's a good opportunity if you really want to add one for your collection. So I have not done an actual unboxing of any of the Power Jedi action figures on the channel before, so I figure this would be another good opportunity to do it. Show off this package here again. A nice iconic image of Vader's helmet up here, and then Obi-Wan. It's kind of Power of the Jedi is basically a combination of like the Phantom Menace and Power of the Force together. At least that's how I understand it. Collection 2. This was just right before I started getting into collecting when Power of the Jedi was at its prime. But I do recall seeing some of these action figures in stores back around 2001, 2002. But I never got any of them at that time until it was completely all in on Attack of the Clones at this point. Jedi Force File. He does have a little bio book about the character there. There is a counterpart to Ellorrs here. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what that Duros character's name is, but we do not have that character in action figure form at this time, so hopefully Hasbro does release his other half here at some point. Fan's Choice figure number 1. Makes sense. A little description here. Yeah, from the Phantom Menace to A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. The Star Wars galaxy is filled with the greatest heroes, cruelest villains, and the most colorful characters ever created. And only Hasbro brings them all to life with detail, authenticity, and fun. To see the full line of figures, vehicles, and creatures and playsets, check out starwars.hasbro.com. Some of the other figures featured, we got some EU ones here with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Some Jedi, IG-88. I would not mind getting that IG-88 at some point. I do have the Sand Trooper, but it's the original trilogy version. Same exact action figure though. I am wanting to get this test deck at some point. I've been kind of holding out on the TBC one, but I really don't want to spend $70 for a 4-pack of action figures. When, quite frankly, comparing the test decks, I think this one actually looks really good as is. It's just about as good as a TBC action figure. Plus, I don't really want to get another Reese. So we'll see how that plays out. But regardless, I still want to get this Power of the Jedi test deck at some point. Some other characters in EU Mall. I do have this Queen Amidala reviewed on the channel. Would recommend checking her out. I do have this R2Q5 as well. The Jar Jar looks pretty good. I wouldn't mind having him. The ton sticking out there. That's neat. A little bit of the bile there, but we'll take a closer look at that here in a minute. Star Wars Fan Club, Jedi Quest. Some nice things. But anyways, let's just go ahead and open this guy up. Probably won't be keeping the package, so I suppose we'll just rip this open as carefully as possible. Usually these bio books are in a little plastic tray. Yeah, this thing right here. We'll take a closer look at this here in a minute. So looking at this action figure, his suit here, it kind of reminds me of like a 60s sci-fi film or TV show. Just the overall look of it. I'm sure that's pretty much what it was inspired from. Yeah, unfortunately the elastic bands, I could tell in the package already, were deteriorated at this point, so probably end up having to give them a little bit of a wash, get some of that stickiness out. But it's not too big of a deal. Overall, he feels pretty good. He's not sticky or having deteriorated plastic or anything like that. Yeah, look at that head sculpt. That's really phenomenal. Even to today's standards, I still think this is very competitive. Paint apps look really nice. They did a nice job with the eyes, the expression, just some of the details like the creases in his forehead there and around his cheeks. Definitely an action figure that, as I said, holds up to today's standards in general. If Hasbro just slapped this guy in a TVC card, I don't think people would really be that upset by it. His head has a combination of some green and some blues mixed in. For the rest of his spacesuit here, it's just kind of like a white silver color. It's a little bit of a shine on his torso and his sleeves here. His pants are kind of similar. A little bit of a Different shade though. That's alright. Does have his belt here. Pretty standard. And we have his boots, and he does have a holster strapped. Let's see how this fits in here. Fits in pretty good. Have to do it a little bit of an angle to accommodate for that scope. Seems to fit in place pretty good. Can accommodate a stand, thankfully. He does seem a little unstable, and I think he'll stand fine enough on his own, but if you knock a shelf a little bit, he'll probably fall over. In terms of his articulation here, looks like he's got a swivel neck and swivel shoulders. Doesn't really look like anything in his elbows at all. Really nothing in his wrists. Swivel waist. Yeah, it's a little bit of a little tight though, so I'll have to work with that a little bit. And then swivel hips. I think that's pretty much it. So basically 6 POA. But quite frankly, I'm fine with that because this is going to be a character you just have standing in the background anyway. And you're going to be having him converse with other aliens. You can have him do something like that. You could probably put a cup in his hand too, if you have a few spares on hand. Like how they did the collar here. Almost looks like he could have a space helmet, similar to like a Bolshek. His one accessory here is just this pistol, which does fit well in his hand even without the elastic bands. His finger fits around the trigger there as well, which is nice. Pretty much get him in a natural shooting pose for Star Wars standards. Suppose you can kind of get him holding the pistol with 2 hands though. This hand's kind of like a gesture where he's waving to Ruhu or Ruher, the bartender there in Mos Eisley. Once I have the cantina, I'm sure I'll have this guy and or the 2 characters interact with one another. Let's take a look at this bio book. So Ellorrs, Madak. I'm not really sure if this was his original name, even back in the 70s and the 80s. I wouldn't be surprised if they just call him like the spaceman alien or something like that. Similar to like Hammerhead, and then what was his official name, like Nadon or something like that, or Nadon. Something along those lines. They even printed the Fan's Choice there. I'm not sure if they held a vote for this guy back in 2000. A little description there of kind of his statistics about strength, speed, endurance, intelligence. Obviously intelligence is his big thing, and speed. Photoshop image of him with the Millennium Falcon. Some skills: piloting. Many Duros like Madak are gifted pilots and are drawn to star travel professions. Navigation. The Duros know secret hyperspace routes throughout the galaxy. For thousands of years, the peaceful Duros have been exploring new worlds and hauling cargo across space. With this heritage, Ellorrs Madak could hardly avoid his skills as a pilot and navigator. Madak co-owns a freighter with his partner, Yeah, this is probably his other Duros. Banis Keeg. Opposed to the Empire, they have smuggled life-saving Bacta to members of the Rebel Alliance. Yeah, so hopefully we get this Banis character at some point. Free membership and a free subscription to the Jedi Quest Kids Club, I guess. Bozeman, Montana. Seems to be where a lot of the stuff went back in the day. I recall doing send away offers, and I think Bozeman, Montana was oftentimes the place for it. Gear, fusion generators, supply tanks. These tanks supply starships with energy for hyperspace travel. Ellorrs Madak recycles depleted tanks to contain smuggling back to. Blaster pistol, a little bit about his pistol there. Although Madak has a non-violent nature, he carries this blaster to defend himself against Imperials and other unsavory characters. Polarity check prong. On his freighter, Madak uses his tool to check the magnetic and ionic polarity of various onboard systems. Then tech, R4 astromech droid. This trusty droid makes repairs on the freighter owned and operated by Ellorrs Madak and Banis Keeg. Capital YV class freighter, the 100-meter long Melanti is capable of hyperspace travel and has over a dozen secret cargo holds. Melanti images courtesy of Decipher Inc.'s Star Wars CCG game. Interesting. Featuring some of the various aliens there, but yeah, there's the Jedi Quest emblem for kids ages 4 to 12. Yeah, this creature right here is one I was looking at the other day when I was purchasing him, and I looked at the action figure of him. They were side by side and thought, I just don't really like the look of him. He has those removable pants as well, which I didn't realize. And I was like, it's just kind of goofy. But he is an ally, so perhaps someday I might end up getting him. We'll see. Some of the enemies there. Greedo is his enemy. Cantina Conspiracy. All these characters here I would like to get. The Mos Eisley Cantina spies tell Ellorrs Madak that Banis Keeg has been abducted by sand troopers. Madak must devise a plan to rescue his partner. Lost in hyperspace. While traveling through hyperspace, Madak's navicomputer malfunctions. Must regain control of his ship before he is lost in the cosmos. His partner there, like all Duros, Madak is a natural wanderer who is at home wherever he travels, or wherever his travels take him. Although Duros tend to be a peaceful species, the Empire's restrictive trade practices prompt Madak to leave his government job and become a freelance flight instructor and occasional smuggler. And some statistics about him. He's from Duro, he's a Duros, and he's 1.83 meters tall, which is pretty decent height. But yeah, this is a really nice thing to include with the action figures. Gives them a lot more character. I learned more about Ellorrs here than I ever knew before. Nice if Hasbro did stuff like that still. I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about this action figure. Bring out some comparisons here real quick. Another one I picked up recently, the Wolfman from the Power of the Force line. Look pretty good side by side. Bring out his enemy, I guess, Greedo. But they all look really good together. This makes me much more excited for the Cantina. And we'll just bring out the TIE Pilot back here since I got the two of them together. Would recommend checking the video out for this guy as well. So would I recommend Ellorrs Madak for your collection? I totally would. If you're a big fan of Aliens, Duros, the Cantina scene, if you're getting the Cantina, I would suppose he's a must-have for your collection. Even 23, 24 years later, in 2024, I think he still is TVC quality. He looks really good. The paint apps are nice. The sculpting work is great. Sure, he's not the most articulated, but he really doesn't need to be. And he's a perfect action figure. I'm glad to own him in my collection finally. And I think this is going to go down as one of my top 10 favorite Star Wars action figure purchases for 2024. Definitely very pleased with it and happy he's a part of my collection. And like I said, as far as price is concerned, most of the Cantina patrons have went up a lot in price in the last few months, but I think this is one of the ones that have stayed consistent. A lot of the older lines, especially Power of the Force, Power of the Jedi, a lot of people have just forgotten about those, and they're not really aware of what action figures are contained in those lines, so he probably gets overlooked. But I think this is one of the best Cantina patrons you can get, quite frankly. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. Of course, as always, thanks for watching.